So I'm very happy to introduce our next speaker, Jamie Margolin, who not only was a plaintiff in that case, but then founded 0 Hour.
Hi, I'm Jamie. I'm 16. I bused from school today. I go to a normal high school, so I'm missing a few classes because this is so important to me, and this is so important for my generation. And just to clarify about the Washington State lawsuit, while the Washington State government pretty much threw it out, we're still appealing and we're still trying to keep fighting and keep getting it through and keep going back and forth until we get the result that we need, because it's totally unacceptable, not only what the federal government is doing, but what the Washington State government is doing, especially because here they talk like they're solving everything when in reality they're just making everything worse. So that is unacceptable. Now, if you were watching a movie and all of the characters in it knew that there were only 12 years left to save the world, but they continued going on with their lives as if nothing was happening and let the clock run out, you would yell at the screen, right? You would throw popcorn at it and be like, oh my god, you guys are being so dumb. You're in the middle of an emergency and literally everything is at stake and you're just going to ignore it and let it continue to get worse? Well, we on planet Earth are living out that movie. Climate change and environmental destruction are quite literally making the world end, and the United Nations made it crystal clear that we have a maximum of 12 years left in order to turn the tide on the climate crisis and save humanity. 12 years left is what the United Nations said a few weeks ago. What would you do if you only had 12 years left to save the world? Because you do only have 12 years left to save the world. And that doesn't mean set your timer for 12 years from now and then get around to mitigating the climate crisis then. It means starting yesterday, we have to radically change our society, the way we live, the way we power our lives, and fully make that climate justice transition in the span of 12 years in order for it to not be too late. That's the 12 years that I'm talking about. I'm a junior in high school, and I am growing up in a world in which life systems are unraveling. In 12 years, I'll be 28. My life will be just beginning when the world is ending. Think about that. My life and the life of my entire generation will be just beginning when the world is ending, quite literally, and that is really hard to grow up in. It's not fair to my entire generation that we are inheriting this monstrosity of a problem. It's not fair to our generation what's happening. It's so hard trying to grow up and live your life, let alone inherit this crisis that makes it so your future will be full of chaos and disaster. That's why I, along with 12 other young people, with the help of the nonprofit Our Children's Trust, recently sued Washington. Why? Because our Governor Jay Inslee let the whole government screw over my generation. Washington State's elected officials love to talk about solving the climate crisis, but then they turn around and issue permits for fossil fuel plants that poison our lives and futures. The even crazier part is that they are destroying our life support systems with a fossil fuel energy system that is wholly unnecessary to provide for our basic energy needs. Experts across the planet say that we don't need this to power our planet. We don't need this dirty energy. We're simply choosing it because we make money off of it. For example, right now, at a time when our lives and futures are on the line, and we need to be rapidly moving away from fossil fuels, Washington is locking in decades more of fossil fuel usage and destruction that our planet can't afford. Like, for example, the liquid natural gas terminal being built in Tacoma. The Puyallup tribe, that has already been through so much at the hands of our colonial government system, is fighting tooth and nail against the liquid natural gas plant and all new fossil fuel infrastructure because they know what's at stake. And it's important to remember that as we fight these fights, that climate change does not impact everyone equally. Climate change was caused by the systems of oppression that let it happen, like colonialism, consumerism, capitalism, and racism. Climate change is not simply about there's a bunch of carbon in the air. Climate change is about how did it get there? Not physically, but how did we let it happen? How did we let a society happen where we're literally destroying the future of all youth and our entire planet. And that's because of these systems of oppression. So you can't just slap a solar panel on this issue and expect it to go away. You have to radically change the systems that made it happen in the first place. Otherwise, you're just putting a Band-Aid on a bullet hole. As we fight climate change, we have to remember how intersectionally intertwined it is with all other social justice issues. You don't choose between Black Lives Matter or climate change. Black Lives Matter is climate justice, which is indigenous rights, which is every other social justice issue, because people who are victims of systems of oppression are automatically more affected by the climate crisis. For example, if you are rich and privileged, you have the privilege to live in a place that is far away from a fossil fuel plant. But if you are a poor person in a low-income community, the companies know that they can take advantage of you, so they will build coal plants, they will build new fossil fuel infrastructure that will poison you. There's a reason why the Dakota Access Pipeline was built on indigenous land, poisoning them versus any old white suburb. There's a reason why 63%, or actually it's 69% of coal plants are built in majority Black communities. This is a social justice issue. You can't ignore the people on the front lines when you fight this issue, and you can't talk about climate as something separate from us, as some overarching environmental crisis. It's poisoning people, it's already killed people. And that's why I need you guys to promise that you will take action long after you get home from this rally. So, I have my own pledge of resistance. By the way, I'm the founder of 0 Hour, which is a youth climate action movement. We are majority high schoolers, majority young women of color from all around the country that organized the first ever youth climate march in Washington, D.C. and 25 cities around the world this summer. We captured mainstream media attention and mainstream attention on youth and the climate crisis, and have been working with people across different movements on making this issue urgent in the public eye, and we are continuing to do that. So if you're interested in talking about 0 Hour, just come find me later. But right now, this is the Pledge of Resistance that was read at the Youth Climate March on July 21st, and I need you to raise your hand and repeat after me. I pledge resistance.
I pledge resistance
To the fossil fuel empire.
to the fossil fuel empire.
I pledge resistance
I pledge resistance
to animal agriculture and factory farming.
to animal agriculture and factory farming.
I pledge resistance
I pledge resistance
to systems of oppression.
to systems of oppression.
I pledge resistance
I pledge resistance
to fossil fuel money.
to fossil fuel money.
I pledge resistance
I pledge resistance
to corporations putting profits over people.
to corporations putting profits over people.
I pledge
I pledge
to build solutions in my community.
to build solutions in my community.
I pledge
I pledge
to educate my community.
to educate my community.
I pledge
I pledge
to make eco-friendly changes in my lifestyle.
to make eco-friendly changes in my lifestyle.
I pledge
I pledge
to vote in the midterms.
to vote in the midterms.
Vote. I pledge resistance,
I pledge resistance.
because this is 0 Hour to act on climate change. There is no more time. Thank you, everybody.